Hey, so here I am, being my normal domesticated self, cleaning the house, doing the dishes, standard stuff. Doorbell goes, and guess who it was? FedEx. Because they've been sent by the good people at Altra. And in the pack there was the Lone Peak 7. Let's talk about it. When you feel the vibe go. My name is Aubrey, and I'm a very average runner, simply trying to be less average by the day. Before I start, there's an important thing to talk about. I got this from Liam. Liam, I want you to know what your comment meant to me, you will never understand, and I can't explain it to you. I want everyone else who has subscribed to my channel to know that gesture is deeply appreciated, because you guys have no clue what it means to me being behind all of this. And I can't express it. So thank you. Let's get on with the review. 2 stories for you. The guy who founded Altra apparently remortgaged his dad's house to source funds to build the first iteration of the Lone Peak. Secondly, the second story, I worked with a guy named Richard Smith, who is part of the Altra team here in the UK, and he promised me a pair of the Lone Peak 7 to review on my channel. And that man kept his word. The reason I say these 2 stories is there is something about Altra I feel that is very human. Yes, it's a business. Yes, they're commercial, but something feels personal and they've got a human touch to what they do. And I wanted to acknowledge that. More importantly, I wanted to encourage other YouTube reviewers, people that review shoes, whilst, yes, speak your opinion, but keep in mind that they are people, they are brands, they are families, they are people who've invested and sometimes giving their everything behind these products. And therefore, I want to encourage everyone that reviews shoes to be a bit more responsible and take accountability for your voice and the things that you're expressing, because they truly impact lives. Anyway, let's get on with it. After I picked up running, I then discovered trail running. That's when I bought the New Balance Hero version 6. Then I discovered On Running's version, the Cloud Vista, and then the new version of the New Balance one came out, the version 7. I obviously had to have that too. Anyway, I started mixing up my running, and I've just discovered the Lone Peak 7. Let's talk specs. As always, I think there are 3 specs that every viewer needs to know about. Firstly, the price. You can buy the Lone Peak 7 on Altra's website for £140 here in the UK. Secondly, the weight of the shoe. I wear a 9.5 UK size and it weighed in at 314 grams. Lastly, the stack height. Now this here is an interesting bit. It's 25 mils all the way across, meaning it's a 0 drop. For the Lone Peak 7 to be a good trail shoe, it needs to have an outstanding outsole. They're calling it MAXTRAC. I love the description on the website. It says it eats up terrain like a boss. Anyway, I had a chat with Richard, who described this as extra sticky. I like that description better than MAXTRAC, because MAXTRAC doesn't mean anything to me. So I compared it to On Running's Cloud Vista, and I felt the rubber on that. It's impressive. Same with New Balance's Hero version 7, absolutely. And when I went back to the Lone Peak 7, I completely understood what he meant. Granted, this is brand new and I've worn these out a little bit, but there is a very clear difference. You just have to feel it yourself, and trust me when I tell you, it's very different. Okay, so next up is the midsole, and they're calling this foam Ultra Ego. I like to play on words, I like that. I own the Touring, which is a road running shoe, but that shoe uses what they call Ego Max, and that is an extra plushy feel. And this one is designed to retain that plushiness, that cushioning, whilst giving you a more responsive feel as you're out on the trails. I think the one bit of feedback I would have is to give people the option of getting the Lone Peak 7 in the Ultra Ego or the Ego Max. For me, I'm a sucker for max cushion shoes. Maybe that would give a different audience a different feel. I think generally because I'm a bigger guy, I always have a bias towards Max Cushion, and it would be good to see a Max Cushion trail shoe with the Lone Peak 7 characteristics. Okay, let's move on to the front of the shoe. You can see it's got this rubberized texture, and all that is there to do is provide you that extra protection. When you're out in the trails, you could run into some rocks, roots, and I love this feature on trail shoes because it guards you and protects you against unnecessary injuries. Not that there's some injuries that are necessary, of course. Next up is the upper, a re-engineered, a very technical mesh, which they're describing as quick drying. I know this is superficial, but I love this. Before the upper builds into the tongue, it has a hole for the laces. Now, whilst that's an aesthetic thing, it does provide, and I tried this when I put it on, a firmer hold of your foot as you're running, and I just love that. That brings me onto the tongue. I love the fact that it's gusseted. For those not too familiar, gusseted means the tongue is in some way, shape, or form joined into the upper. When you put your foot in there, it gives you that sock feeling, and the tongue doesn't move about aimlessly. I like that about it. I've also been making a big fuss about heel tabs. You see, the other day I was putting the shoe on and I caught my thumb in the shoe and it hurt like a... Anyway, I love that because you use that to take the shoe off or even put it on without having to get your finger in there, taking up the space in the shoe as well for your foot to go in. But the Lone Peak 7 actually features a tab on the tongue. I was actually going to say a heel tab on the tongue. Never mind. But that gives you the option of how you're putting the shoe on. I genuinely love that because you have the foot at the back and you might want to pull the front because you don't want to reach around and reach for the heel tab. I like that touch, Ultra. Well done. When you feel the vibe go.